So I started the company in 2006. So I've been here in the same location now for almost 15 years. So we've been doing this longer than most shops and have learned so much along the way. I've got a great group of people that have been with me for years and years and years. We have almost no turnover, so people really like working here. It's very much a family environment. We're proud of the work that we do. My name is Sharif Abdelbaset. I am the owner of Forge Performance, and I kind of do several different things here at the company. Joe handles all the day-to-day stuff here in the back, which is great. So that gives me more time to focus on like the tuning side, which is my passion.
Joe Kenefic. A lot of people know me online as the Mad Scientist. I think I earned that name back in the early 2000s. But I've been doing this for, ever since I got out of high school. So probably 1997, 98. And I've been involved with Forge Performance pretty much since Sharif started his business. I had my own shop a long time ago and was in Super Street and Sport Compact Car for tuning Chevy Cavaliers of all things. And I respected how Sharif started, because I started it kind of out of my house and in my garage, and I ended up doing the same thing. And we connected, and we kind of just stayed in touch over the years. And I had lived in Indianapolis for a long time and eventually decided to pack up shop and move down here to Forge. And I've been here with the company for the last 4 to 5 years, and kind of as the general manager of the shop here, and manage all the things that go on in the back of the house with the builds and making sure everything gets done on time and everything. And then Sharif manages the tuning aspects, and Bobby up front in the office dealing with sales orders and whatnot.
Hi, my name is Bobby Sanders. I'm the sales manager here at Forge Performance. I've been with the company since roughly 2014. I basically just handle most of the day-to-day stuff that kind of goes on here at the shop, between working with all of our customers, vendors, ordering parts, maintaining the schedule, getting the guys on task, and kind of keeping everything going. That's pretty much my job in a nutshell, although I wear probably many more hats than that. But
yeah, so the company started off with the 350Z. That's what I had at the time, what Sharif had at the time, and we just started building them up from there. And there wasn't anybody really tuning on that platform at the time. And that's really how we built a name for ourselves. And then in 2009, when the GTR came out, Sharif was one of the first people to get that car. And he started racing it competitively in the Time Attack series almost right away. And that's how we built our brand up for the GTR. And for almost the last 10 years, we'll almost focus exclusively on the GTR. But we do still tune Subarus, Evos, we've done some Porsches, and now we're getting into the Audi R8 and Huracan market as well.
Like Joe said earlier, the company kind of started with the GTR focusing on track days and circuit course racing. That was really everything that was out there at the time in 2008, 2009. And then gradually we've evolved the company into doing a lot of half-mile stuff, and then that evolved into drag racing to where we are now.
Over the few years, starting off, we were building cars that were peaking a little over 1,000 horsepower, and fully built Pro-Max clutches to handle that. And now we're pushing well over 2,000 horsepower coming into the transmission. So, and Pro-Max clutch is still holding it. I'm Greg Stipes. I work at Forge Performance. I've been here for approximately 8 years. I build GTR transmissions and engines, and make some really fast cars go even faster. The process in disassembly and reassembly a GTR transmission is pretty involved. It requires a great deal of specialized tools. Dodson provides a number of pullers. There's probably 4 separate pulling devices that we use that are all custom made exclusively for the GR6 transmission. We use I think it was like a 15-ton hydraulic ram to pull off a number of the gears on the gear set in the back of the transmission. Then there's a bunch of custom pullers that get attached to the ram as well. So the disassembly process is very involved. If you don't know what you're doing, if you've never taken one apart before, it can easily get you into a little bit of trouble as far as not knowing where certain clips are. There's a decent amount to it. It's definitely a very, very involved process as far as the procedure goes, the explicit steps that everything has to be done. So, you can't just go tearing into it necessarily without a little bit of knowledge as to what exactly you're doing.
So yeah, when I first started, we were basically exclusively Dodson. I know before I was here, we had tried a few other companies, and we're never really truly satisfied. But once I started, and that was the company, that Dodson has basically been our go-to for anything transmission related on all the platforms that we work on. So from the GTR to the R8 to the Huracans, even some of the Evos and some of the BMWs, basically anything transmission related, we're sourcing through Dodson. We've seen quality issues with other components and things like that over the past from other brands and manufacturers, and theirs have basically held up and been kind of the true benchmark of quality. And wouldn't use any other company.
So my personal car has kind of evolved into the shop's car. Sharif kind of bared that flag for a while with his GTRs, and the market kind of shifted a little bit from road racing to drag racing for the GTRs. I mean, we are still known as the place to go to in the country for road race builds, but we've started to build our name up in drag racing as well. And my personal car is the shop car for drag racing, and we've been fortunate enough this year to win TX2K, and we came in a very, very close second place to AMS in World Cup back in February, lost by 0.03 of a second on a hole shot. But there was a lot of growing pains between that time till this year when we broke through and had all that success. A lot of failed components and learning along the way and figuring out how to make these transmissions work at these types of power levels. And we've broken through, and we have a successful racing program. I mean, it's not too many shops out there that can say they've campaigned one car, same transmission, same engine, same everything for 2 events and made it to the finals both times. And we want to build on that success and push even harder. So right now, the best the cars ever ran is a 729 at 197 miles an hour. And that was in a weight restricted class for the 68 millimeter cars. And we want to basically strip all that extra weight that we put back into the car, back out of the car, and streamline some things. We're testing some chassis tuning, suspension components, and we want to push for that 6-second passing. Everybody wants to see, hey, can a 68 millimeter car that makes roughly 2,000 horsepower break into the 6s? We know it can be done, but it's going to be a little bit of a process to get there, and that's kind of the journey that we're on right now.
So we see a lot of, I feel like the GTR market is stabilized at this pretty nice peak. I don't think it's growing rapidly anymore, but I don't think it's in a decline. And so we still have, 90% of our market or our work here is still the GTR. But what I am noticing is that a lot of GTR owners have actually been upgrading to the Huracan and the R8, sort of that next step up where they're moving to more of like a real supercar with kind of a more luxurious, more polished interior, more polished driving experience. If there's one qualm about the GTR, as people talk about it, is it's a little bit rough around the edges. The transmissions are a little funny. Even when they're stock, they make crazy noises that people complain about. So it's just not as smooth as refined as driving an R8 or a Huracan or even like a Porsche. So I'm seeing a lot of GTR customers now that are either adding to their collection or just outright selling their GTRs and getting R8s and Huracans. And the logical first step for those guys are Motec, Dodson clutches, and twin turbos, because they want that power. That's what's missing from those cars. If you come over from even a 1,000 horsepower GTR, you get a Huracan and R8 and it feels broken.
Without a dual clutch transmission that can take this kind of power, you're really not going to be able to do much of anything. I mean, Dodson is instrumental in us being able to do that. We have worked with other gearbox manufacturers throughout the years, and we've settled in on Dodson and haven't, wavered from them from, several years ago. And that's really because of the strength and reliability of the gearbox parts that they're putting together. I mean, who would have ever thought that the GTR, when it came out in 2009, would be able to make on these big cars over 3,000 horsepower and 1,800 foot-pounds of torque through that gearbox? So, and Dodson is going to be instrumental into the next platform that we go into, which is the R8 and Huracan, because, they have all that experience with the GTR gearbox and applying that into that platform. We're going to do the same thing. We've been building the GTR transmission for over 10 years now. We have a lot of expertise in-house. We've kind of learned all the little tricks along the way, and we're going to apply all of that to what we're doing with the Lamborghini and the R8 market.
Yeah, so Dodson has been, I think, one of our strongest, if not our strongest vendor relationship that we've had over the years. We were one of the first shops to get set up with them as a pro dealer. And I want to say that was either 2000, I think it was calendar year 2009. because pretty quickly with our shop car, we started breaking stuff and needed support and parts. And it was a steep learning curve. And I think that's why a lot of other shops didn't necessarily want to work on transmissions, because it's extremely complicated. There's a lot of parts. It's a very difficult transmission to take apart. Even if somebody is familiar with transmissions in general, they look at the GTR transmission or an R8 or Huracan transmission, and it looks like a very complicated puzzle that they just don't want to get involved in. So, you know, we've invested thousands and thousands of dollars in tooling and training and resources to be able to do these transmissions in-house. So it's not something that just anybody can do. And Dodson's been with us every step of the way. If we have questions, they're there. If we have problems, they've supported them. If we've had issues, they've helped us with replacement parts and stuff. So they've always been very fair with us, and their products have gotten stronger and better as time has gone by. And now we're at the point where, you know, we have really bulletproof solutions for transmissions that last a really long time. And that wasn't the case back in 2010 or 2011 or even 2013. So this is definitely something that has evolved. And far and away, I don't care what anybody says, they make the strongest clutches and gear sets out there. So it takes a lot to try to break that stuff, you know, so.
Well, I know for us, initially, we aren't going to go out there and chase those 2,000, 2,500, 3,000 horsepower builds. You know, we know that in our experience with the GTR, you got to build this up from the bottom. You start at those, you know, average customer builds, and then you have some customers that want to go racing, and then you start pushing the limits from there. So initially, our goals is to, you know, do bolt-on cars, and then we'll do gearboxes and, you know, mild engine builds, and kind of start turning out those 1,400, 1,500 horsepower cars. We feel like most customers are going to end up stopping there. That's the usable daily street drivable car. And then, you know, if we get that customer eventually, after building up our prior performance and showing everybody that we're really good at this and we can build reliable cars, and we get some guys that want to go racing, then we'll start pushing the limits from there.
So cars have always been a passion of mine, I think, since I was a child. I mean, I remember when I was 6 years old, I would jump into my dad's Dasher, and I'd start playing with the gear shifter and breaking shift knobs and turn signals, and, you know, they'd always reprimand me for that, but I was just always a car nut. And so when I got out of college, I actually went into corporate America for almost 8 years, and I worked for a large consumer packaged goods company. And so I got a lot of kind of general business experience and general marketing experience there. But deep down inside, I've always been a car guy. And so as I got into the 350Z, which is kind of how this company started back in 2004, 2005, I didn't even have a shop at the time. But I slowly got a name for being able to tune and do some forced induction work and stuff on these cars, and kind of created like a little niche for myself, a little name for myself, even though I didn't have a shop at the time. And so kind of the natural progress, the natural evolution of that was, hey, it's time to open up a shop, and decided to open up a shop here in the Atlanta market, a very large market with a lot of good talent, a lot of good vendors and people that I can trust. And we've been here ever since.